Hey folks, this is Curtis Brown, your instructor for HSEP 302, Emergency Management and Incident Response. Just wanted to post a video. I know I haven't over the last 2 weeks, so just want to catch up on a couple of things and discuss our readings and video and talk about the upcoming weeks as we close out the semester. Couple of special announcements. First, the 10-question quiz is due by tomorrow at 6 p.m. As you know, the quiz covered weeks 11, 12, and 13. So discussion about recovery and about the terrorist threat. And so please make sure you complete that by tomorrow. The grading for Memo 2 is underway. My plan is to post the grades by May 1st. And if anything changes on that, I'll let you know. But that's the plan right now, to post the grades by May 1st. As you know, for my last Blackboard message, gave an extension for submitting the FEMA certificates. Some of you all have started to submit them now. I'll be going into my email over the next couple of days and sending you responses that they have been received. Once all the FEMA certificates are received, I'll begin to post those grades. Again, that's a pretty big percentage of your grades. Each certificate counts equally as a part of the percentage of that grade, so please do submit those certificates. Again, I would like the PDF copy of the certificates and not just the link to the PDF. And just for professional development purposes, these certificates are something that you want to keep with you, as there are several jobs that require these trainings, especially the 800 and 700 independent study courses. So having done it with this course, you're helping out your professional development, and you can already say that you completed them for whether it's a job or internship. One or two of you all have reached out to me related to IS 800B, which is the National Response Framework course. FEMA has recently updated this course, and so it's now 800C, as in cat. So as long as, please do the 800C. It's still related to the National Response Framework, but they made a couple of tweaks and changes and updates. And for some of you all, you've completed these certificates in previous courses. As long as you submit it with your name and information, it'll be counted as a part of this course. But again, the FEMA courses will be an element of the comprehensive final exam. So be sure to look over each one of those courses and material. You should understand NIMS, ICS, emergency response, all based on those FEMA courses. Speaking of the upcoming final exam, you can look on your syllabus when the exam will be in May. Again, the exam will be comprehensive, similar to the midterm format, which will include multiple choice, true, false, short answer, and also a memo. And so again, it would touch on some of the key areas related to preparedness, mitigation, recovery, response, and try to package it all together to get some of the key points. I will post a document, a study guide document related to the final exam, as well as discuss, have a final exam video as well. So again, we're winding down the semester, only 2 more weeks left here in April, and then we'll be getting right into final exam time. Just want to go over the last 3 weeks. Again, I haven't posted a video in a while, so just wanted to hit on a couple of the high points. Week 11 and week 12, the focus was on recovery. And recovery is the longest, most likely the longest part of an incident. You might have an incident that lasts an hour or a couple of hours, such as a hurricane, but the damage is so extent that the recovery process lasts years. You think about Hurricane Katrina, any of the hurricanes that we had over the last hurricane season, Maria in Texas and Florida and Puerto Rico. Those recovery processes are going to last for 10 years or more possibly, just to rebuild, to recover, to assist families with getting back on their feet. Even if you look at a terrorism example, 9/11, September 11th, 2001, it took many years to rebuild and for those businesses and communities to rebuild. And we can't disregard the psychological rebuilding as well in terms of mental health. So recovery is a major part of emergency management. Your textbook reading talked about all the tools that are used to help state and local governments recover. And the federal government provides a number of different programs within different agencies to support the recovery process. For instance, the Small Business Administration supports recovery, providing low interest loans to businesses who are impacted by disasters. So understanding the whole of government support during recovery is important. The Joplin video shows you the devastation of a storm and what recovery really means when you have whole communities completely leveled, businesses, public facilities like schools, and of course people's homes. So you're dealing with how do you rebuild the community, and 9 out of 10 times for a lot of these incidents, folks are resilient, which is great. They're not going to pack up and leave. They're going to rebuild. And so coordinating that rebuilding process with the federal government, the insurance agencies, and identifying what are the priorities for getting the community back up on their feet. And again, you got two types of recovery. You got short-term recovery, which is looking at more immediate needs, food, housing, clothing, etc. Then you have more of the long-term recovery, looking at rebuilding infrastructure and hopefully making it more resilient for whatever might be the next incident. So make sure you do the reading related to the recovery chapter. You also part of the reading was the pre-disaster recovery planning guide for local governments. Local governments are the first responders. They're very important to the emergency management process. And so the concept with that guide is for local governments to begin considering what their recovery priorities will be prior to an incident, not waiting until the disaster occurs. So that guide helps to facilitate the community discussion about what recovery would look like, so that the community will at least have a plan to go by. And for all the communities that were impacted this past year by hurricanes, I know that they wish they had a guide like that. Hopefully some of them did, but we know in a couple of instances that that was not the case. One of the videos, again, there was two videos, one about Joplin. The other one was about the recovery process as it relates to the insurance industry and how difficult it is when individuals are trying to interact with the insurance industry as it relates to recovery. And it talks about the red tape, some of the shady or bad practices that some folks have gone through. And again, there's been a lot of focus and attention on this from Congress and others on how to improve the process. You also have instances of corruption, of individuals requesting recovery funding when they wasn't even impacted. So we're talking about billions of dollars in some of these worst case scenarios, like the big hurricanes and tornadoes. How do you manage to ensure that these federal dollars are being used wisely and correctly? And so that video talks about some of the challenges related to recovery. So again, all of that related to recovery will be a component in the final exam, and is important. Again, as emergency managers, you're not only thinking about the incident and the response, which again is very clear in terms of how important that is, trying to minimize the loss of life, but you're also thinking about the recovery. And again, the recovery planning is a part of the overall planning for an incident. So that was over weeks 11 and 12. The focus was on recovery. This week, the focus was on terrorism threat. And again, terrorism is a subset of man-made threat. We talk about natural, man-made, essentially all hazards